Hi everyone, welcome back to the studio. There's something about spring blossoming that just stops you in your tracks, and today I thought we would paint that feeling on canvas. I'm going to walk you through step by step, wet on wet, start to finish, no experience necessary. My name is Kaylee and this is Tutorial Tuesday. I've already prepped my 18-inch by 24-inch canvas and it is ready to go. I have a very, very thin, even coat of liquid white. And I just used my little foam brush to apply that on there, and it's been sitting for about 3 minutes. I'm going to use my 1-inch brush today and we'll start building a beautiful little sky, just balancing out some of those pinks of blossoms that we're going to use later. Ooh, it's going to be such a good scene. I think I'm going to grab just the tiniest bit of phthalo green, just a tint, tiny little bit. And I'm going to start right up here. We'll have our light source coming from the left-hand side today. Nice bright sky, some cute little clouds. We just leave out some little spaces and got some clouds in there automatically. And as I'm working from where I started here, I'm using less and less paint as we move closer and closer to our light source. Maybe we'll have it kind of like a morning sky, a little softness. Just using the same dirty brush. Let's go down and put a few reflections. And we'll use the same color, blue, phthalo blue, a little bit of phthalo green. And we want to just build a little bit of reflections, conditioning our canvas, meaning we're going to get one coat on the entire canvas. Set us up for later. Maybe I'm going to go with a little bit more phthalo green, just a touch. So it's a little more green than the sky, a little darker than the sky. Just work from the bottom up. Maybe about there. And let's do the other side as well. Same colors, nice and dark now. Dark, dark, dark. All right, now I'm going to check my brush. We'll get just a little bit of titanium white. We've got a nice little blue going on there. A little bit more white. And a touch of crimson. Maybe a little bit more crimson. I want to be able to see that color. There we go. Let's try that. We'll build just a few little misty areas. We'll soften this out. All right, now, big blending brush. We're going to soften out that sky. Just making sure that my brush is clean. And I'm going to pick up some liquid white. just the tip of my brush is going into that little gray mixture, and I'm bringing it down into the liquid white. Nice and simple at first, we'll build on this. Now, let's do just a touch more on this top corner, a little bit more blue. Phthalo blue on the same brush. And now we'll blend. Just get rid of the brush strokes. And let's go ahead and soften out the bottom as well. Just with our dirty brush. We want to get a little bit of this gray blue all over the canvas. Nice and flat. Now, for some clouds, let's use our fan brush. We'll go into some titanium white. And let's get a little bit of a lavender color, just a touch of crimson, a touch of blue. I like that. Now, let's start and build us a few pops of clouds out in the sky. I'm going to wipe off my brush and reload. We're going to pick up blue, so we can just grab a good bit of crimson to balance that out. Maybe a little fluff there. I'm going to use the other corner of my brush. Wipe that off a little bit. Maybe I didn't clean it off that time, or further away from the light out here. Let's put in some bigger ones. A little bit of titanium white, crimson. Now, clean off the brush. Let's use our blending brush. Make sure that's clean. Just wipe out that blue. And we just want to soften these a little bit. Wipe that off a touch. Now, wipe off one more time. We'll give these a lift. I like to go in kind of a little bit of a half circle here, just lifting it up and towards the middle. And we'll kind of give them a little tug, just a little. Now, a little bit of a highlight on those. Fan brush. We'll go into some liquid white, some titanium white, and some bright red. Wipe off a little bit if you pick some up. Reload. Want to keep it nice and fresh. Wipe it off. Oop, I got a little bit more red in that. I don't know if I like that. Okay. Just soften that back just a touch. A firecracker. Now a little bit more. Has to be medium thickness, so make sure you get that liquid white. Also helps it to really pop. Gives it that sparkle when the painting dries. You'll like it. Just give the brush a little bit of a flick and push up and leave those edges. Now, blending brush. Let's make sure that it is clean-ish. Not bad. And let's start on some of our lighter ones. And we're just going to use a couple hairs and just soften some of those in and back into our cloud. Tiny little twirls and get those little bristles just to 1 and 2 grab some of that paint. Tap and swirl. If you practice this and then use this technique, you will be so amazed at the types of clouds that you can create. You can use all sorts of colors, just about layering, using your brushes, and using the paints really to your advantage. Give that a good little lift, just a couple hairs. And there we are. Nice little sky. Right, next step. Let's start with some cute little trees out here. Springtime. They are starting. There's some leaves. We'll get some sap green. We'll get some titanium white. A touch of blue. A touch of phthalo green. Tap. A little bit more white. And it's a little bit strong. I'm going to grab just the smallest amount of crimson. We want to just kind of, I want it to be a nice bright green, but it's still a little further away. So to create that atmosphere, just a touch titanium white. That's close. Let's see what we have here. Yeah, that's great. Let's build us some little trees out here. Just tap. Do one tree at a time. Reload. That way each one gets its own little flavor. Maybe there's another one right in front, smaller. Reload. Crimson, sap green, phthalo blue, titanium white. Tap. Open up the bristles. More pressure as you get towards the base of the tree. Sap green, titanium white. What if a little bit, just a touch of Indian yellow? Maybe there's another one. Maybe a few right out here, nice bright ones. Just let that one kind of go off the edge there, and we'll do maybe one or two more on the edge over here. A little bit of blue, sap green, Alizarin crimson. Now, right at the base of all of these, I want a nice and dark layer, something in front. We'll use sap green, alizarin crimson, phthalo blue, a little bit of phthalo green just to keep all our colors in harmony. Less white. Maybe just bend the bristles. Maybe just a touch more. There we go. Now, let's do a little bit more detail on these trees back here. I'm going to get a script liner and go into my brush wash. We'll just get the bristles nice and coated there. And we'll go into the same color that we were using, or just our greens and blues. Just a touch darker than the trees back here themselves, but not much. Just working some trees. Maybe we'll get a little bit of liquid white. Out here on these edges, I'm always trying to slightly tilt the trees just barely, a little bit in on a couple of those branches to help our eyes. We don't want it to be too obvious, but just enough. I mean, if we're just kind of creating this. Now, maybe we'll do a few more through here. I want it to look like a nice, dense forest of beautiful spring blossoming trees. It's healthy and thriving. Now, let's do a little bit of highlights on those. We'll use our 1-inch brush, go into the liquid white. Just tap into that. We've got some dirty paint on there. Let's see what it turns into. And I think a little bit of Indian yellow, a little bit more. Maybe a touch more sap green. Take this, I think, just wanted a little bit more yellow in that. Right up here. We'll tap on a little highlight. I want a little bit more white in there. It's seeming a little too dull on the, or that's kind of just a little too strong on color, I guess, would be the actual. Too much pigment there. I want it to be a little bit more sparkly. There we go. That's what I was hoping for. Let's go right on top of that. Indian yellow, liquid white, and our dirty brush. All the fun. A little bit more. Doing each tree one at a time. A touch darker now, just a touch. What about a little bit of phthalo green? Just gonna wipe that out just a tiny bit, tap on the towel, little bit of liquid white, tiniest bit on the corner of the brush, some Indian yellow, a little bit of bright red, just a touch. There we go. Now we're going to soften this out just a little bit in a couple areas with our big blending brush. Now, I think we're going to have some water down here. Maybe not quite just yet, but let's bring some of this color just down, just in case. Now, let's do a little bit more on these trees here. We'll put some branches on those. Maybe we'll get some sap green and alizarin crimson, just a little bit on the brush, and build just a couple little details here. And now let's throw a little highlight on those, some liquid white. We'll go right back into our dirty color here. Let's grab a little bit more of our greens, touch of blue. A little bit lighter. Nice. Now, soften that out just a bit at the base again. Now, let's throw in some stones. I'm going to use my palette knife here. We'll grab a little bit of our main colors we've been using. Just grab all of those. Then we're going to grab some Van Dyke brown. Mix those. We can marble that mixture a little bit. And then we'll grab some white. And check our color. I think we need, we'll do a touch of blue and a touch more crimson. That's a little bit more of what I was looking for. Now, we'll wipe off a little bit on the knife. Get it clean. And right up here, maybe we'll just have some nice little boulders and stones. Just trying to get some movement. Maybe a few shapes and ideas. Not too many though. We'll do a few more here. Just moving down some stones and boulders. Putting lots of texture in here. With the blending brush, Let's just bring it all together now. Let's just keep this right here, nice and flat, just like that. Okay, now we'll do a few highlights on these stones. They're kind of a little bit shaded here, but there's going to be pops of sun. So we'll grab some titanium white, just a touch of our color, and let's marble it together right here. Got a little spot. Now with just a tiny roll of paint on the edge of the knife, let's build some stones out here. Just a few at a time. Start with the furthest away. Moving closer and closer. Let's mix up a tiny bit more. I think I almost ran out. Onto some of those, we'll do a little bit more highlight. Titanium white, and we'll still use some of our main color here. I'm just going to clean off a spot. And our rock, just a little bit of that. Much less of it, and a touch of bright red. That was too much. Let's try that. On just a few of these out here. Now we need a few little grasses in there. We'll just take our fan brush and pick up some of this light green mixture. We've already got it nice and thinned out there. And in just a few areas, you can just tap and press up with the bristles. Just pop right off. Let's get a little bit of Indian yellow and liquid white just on their own. soften these edges a little bit again. Little area right out here we'll do with the script liner. Let's build a few trees. Alizarin crimson and sap green. Just on the script liner. Maybe I'll thin that down a touch with the brush wash just to make it flow. Really helps. Now let's do maybe one there. Let's do one here maybe. It's a littler one. Maybe there's more. We need to do just a little bit of a highlight on these on the left side. We'll go into the liquid white and just lighten up that brown with some bright red. These are pretty far away, still not our main focus, so we don't need them to be perfect. Let's use our fan brush. Clean it off. I've got a lot of green in it. I'm just going to wipe it out. Then I'm going to go into the Alizarin crimson. We'll go right here and get a little bit of titanium white. A touch of blue, just a touch. Titanium white. Alizarin crimson, a tiny bit of blue, maybe a little bit of phthalo green. I need more white. There it is. Some distant. Wiggle your fan brush down through the paint. And let's start dancing in some of our cherry blossoms. More white. Let's do just a couple little ones. Maybe we have them right here in front. Just a little hint. I just wiped out the brush a little bit to get a little bit more white, some bright red. Still pretty thick paint. Just a tiny bit there. And then we'll highlight those. But first, I want to bring out a few of the branches again so we can use our script liner, thin down the paint, get a nice loose paint here. Okay, now, tiny bit more color on those now. We'll go into the liquid white, just like our clouds. And we want nice, light, white and pink, much more white, but not just white. It has to be pink. Right on the edges of some of these. We'll pick out a few sparklers. Okay, now, a few of those got a little crazy. Just soften that back. Now let's do some more rocks out here. We'll get a little bit more color mixed up. This time we'll add some midnight black. Big pile of dark here. And we'll build out right here. Some big old rocks. Now let's do some color on those. We'll just take some of that dark and marble it over here with our white that we had. Our light source is coming from the left. We just glide that paint right on top. All of it grabs. We want just the paint from the knife, not the knife touching the canvas. Down here, that's okay. A little bit more paint. Those back. Now, maybe there are just a few little leaves and blossoms from these trees that had fallen. We'll just go into a little bit of our light pink color here. Maybe there are also like some small trees growing out there too. Who knows? That's not. We'll leave it just like that for right now. Now let's do a little bit more here. We're going to bring this around There's a stream back here. Just keep building this other area over here. More rocks, kind of another edge up here. And let's put in just a little cherry blossom tree right here. Fan brush. I'm going to get one fan brush kind of going with a little bit of a darker color and a thicker color, titanium white and bright red and alizarin crimson. Much more white, but we do want the bright red and crimson. There we are. Nice and thick. A little bit more paint. Now we'll highlight that. Picking up my other fan brush, going into the liquid white, bright red. Nice thin color. A little bit lighter, I think. Press up. Now, wipe out some of that dark and get the script or the palette knife. Don't know why, sometimes I just struggle with that. Palette knife, and we'll mix up another little bit of a highlighty color, not too much color in it. Just our mountain rock mixture and a little bit of white. We'll just throw in some more rocks out here. Then we just pull some of those back. And right over here, I'm going to pull down, oh, what is this? I don't know. Tape, maybe. Pull down a little bit of dark here. And just smooth it out. Now, let's do maybe a few more bushes over here and a few more rocks. Just trying to slowly build this scene. Because we're going to put a little bridge in here. And I'm going to procrastinate painting that for as long as I can. Because sometimes they're tricky. So we want to build all the rest of the scene around that part. And then we don't have to worry about it. Let's pick up, I've got my 1" here. Go into just a touch of that dark. And just work this back here. A little bit more dark. Let's just keep this going a little bit more. Let's go about there. And let's do, where's my fan brush? Fan brush with a little bit of the darker colors, crimson and bright red. Maybe just a few more of those little pops in there. Let's do some green ones too. We'll do some grasses and stuff. Maybe just right up in this area. A little bit of highlight on the rocks. Blending brush. Nice. Now, we're going to have a bridge that comes over to this side, from this side. Water's going that way, it kind of just disappears out that way. Doesn't really matter, it's going to go through those rocks and behind, and none of that really matters. So let's do a little bit of rock building slightly in front so we can have this come into our bridge. Maybe we'll have a big kind of boulder here. Maybe something like this. Big boulder. Bring these down a little more into the water. Blending brush. Let's do with our fan brush, we're going to go into a little bit of liquid white, and I'm just going to put a few more little grasses. Liquid white, Indian yellow. Maybe we'll throw a couple right over here too. Nice. Now, I'm going to pick up my sable brush. Any one will do. And I'm going to use my dark mixture, which I've basically run out of, so I guess I'm gonna make some more. Typical, always running out. Grab all of those. Let's get some dark sienna as well. Pretty much all of our darks now. Nice big pile of that. Now, with a little bit of titanium white, we'll start with that on the brush and then go into this dark mixture. Let's just look for some of our path angles. I have a little bit of an example here, so let's use that. We'll have our path come up here, come around. Now, for our bridge, we'll start it maybe right here. Something like that. Wider. Do the same narrow spot there, something like that. Now we want to bring this in front. I think we can use our dark here just to kind of soften this base to make this our idea of the bridge back here. Can just give it a little bit of a bush texture on this back edge. Maybe a little tiny highlight. Back again. There's that. Blending brush, pull down our reflections. All right, now we're in business. I'm going to use my knife, the tool that I'm lacking on words for some reason. But let's use that. Nice, clean palette knife. Cut off a little roll of paint. I'm going to use the end of my knife, and let's see if we can use that for our little pillars here for the bridge. We got one on that side and one over here. All right. Okay. Let's do, kind of hard to make a curved bridge with our straight blade there. So I'm going to pick back up my sable brush and we'll see if I can get that to work. I'll pick up a nice dark bit of paint and we're going to paint the bottom of our bridge here, the front. This needs to be down there. Oh, I was supposed to do that one in front this way. There we go. Now I'm going to use some titanium white. We'll just grab a little bit of that and go right over here into our dark mixture and grab some bright red. Dark sienna, that's a good color. And we want the top of this bridge, it's going to pop out on this other side right about here. Wipe that out, and then we'll kind of soften it across. too bad. Let's use a script liner. And we'll just put in some dark slats back here. Kind of like the cracks. And maybe with this, we can paint a few more of our beams again. Let's try that. So that's our front one. We want to paint the back ones first. I'm going to start over here because this might be a little bit easier to see. Just start one. And the next one smaller and in front. So this one is about the length of the brush, the bristle down a little bit to the ferrule. So now the next one, let's make it just the length of the brush and not the ferrule. We'll add just a tiny, tiny bit. So it's about a halfway in between the full length and the ferrule, and a tiny bit more. Now, next one, even smaller. Getting a little closer together. Make these just a tiny bit taller. There it is. Because we still want to have that arch. Now, let's see. Looks like that one we made it a little bit too long. We can just put in that little bush that's right behind it again. Then fix your rock, just a tiny bit of light. Now, we'll do our arch. These are going to need to come up just a touch higher to make this look good. A little bit more here. There we go. Well, I still actually think right here. Touch higher. Now, let's do, before we paint the arch across that, let's kind of square these off with a little bit of a highlight. I'm going to use some titanium white, some bright red, just a touch of these kind of brown mixtures we already have, and some dark sienna. And I'm going to go into this green mess and wipe off some of that and get myself some room. Marble those colors, and we'll cut off a little roll that paint, our light source is coming from the left. So tap it. Now, I'm just going to pull some of this highlight around onto the other side, just like we do with some of our rocks. Only I'm pulling it kind of straight and at a backwards angle to create those little logs. Nice. Now, script liner. I'm going to go into this light mixture that we created, kind of our highlight for the logs. And we'll use this right here, just below our dark. Now with a clean sable brush, we're going to pull that straight across. Now, same thing, a little bit red. And we want to paint a few slats here. A little bit more liquid white. Maybe a little bit of Indian yellow. Now, just gonna bring this back together here, kind of soften out the edges. And then we're gonna cover this kind of front area there with another log. Let's just soften these back a tiny bit. Script liner, nice and dark color. We'll grab the dark and some dark sienna together. And right across the top here, we want to match this arch a little bit. A little bit bigger. Nice. Now, nice and dark color, really, really dark. Right on the bottom, real thick, dark color. And then we will let's do one more log across here, right here. Oh, I got a little crooked, that's okay. Highlight that with some liquid white, bright red, and some of our browns. Just twirl that on the script liner and right on the top. Ran out. then with our palette knife, we can get just a little tiny bit. That was a lot more than a tiny bit in this spot right here, but oh well. Sometimes it just happens and you gotta leave it. Now, I'm gonna take a little bit of our browns here and reds on my palette knife. I think right here. We can just use our knife and kind of tint it. A little bit of our dark now browns. Now right here, we're gonna now start our front. Let's pull that little wood shape kind of down, make it nice and big, dark. Now these ones, let's do these with our palette knife to make them nice and thick. They're in front, they're bigger. Start our bridge right here. Now we'll use just the back of the knife. A big chunk on that there. Well, sometimes the paint just doesn't want to play nice. That's okay though. And we're back at the start. Let's bring this one up just a touch. Now, oops. Now let's do some highlighting on these. We'll use titanium white and our red-brown mixtures. More white. A little bit more harmony there with our main mixture. Cut off a little roll of that. Tab. Go on the back of the knife. Highlights, we pull back kind of our little shadow side. Just try and square them off a little bit. Now, right on top, nice and dark. And it just sinks right into the other one there. We'll highlight that with our palette knife to make it easier. Right there. A little bit more light right on the edge here. Bring that down. And maybe right here we'll do just another little bit there. Bring down just a tiny little shadow there, just a bit. Now, script liner and liquid white. We'll go into our light browns here and right across the top. Let's pick up the palette knife and we'll go into that and just pull it straight down. Right on the bottom of this bridge, we're going to mix up a little bit of titanium white, a touch of blue, and just give it a little glisten there. The water will be hitting it. And with your palette knife, you can just tap right on the edge of that line and soften it. Now, I think we need just a touch going into this light mixture here. And nice little bead of light just on some of those. A little bit more liquid white. And then we'll leave that. I don't want to lose too much of that. Let's do some finishing work here on our bridge. Just some more boulders on the front here. They're right in front. Maybe a little bit underneath the bridge even. What about a few bushes in here? Sap green, phthalo blue. And we'll pull down some reflections here. Now, highlight on the rocks. Just working step by step, one layer at a time. Nice wet oil paints. Maybe one more rock right here. Now, some highlight, liquid white, sap green. Ooh, that's a nice color. Nice spring color. A little bit of phthalo green maybe. Ooh. Maybe a little bit let's do a touch of those for some reflections. Pull them down. Got a big chunk of paint right there. Okay. Now right here we have our bridge meeting the land, so we need some reflections here as well. Let's do a little water line back there before we get too ahead of ourselves and forget about it. Just grab a little bit of blue, titanium white, and some liquid white. Cut off a little roll of that. I'm going to put some on the top and the bottom of the knife. Right back here. Let's fix this right here. Maybe some pink. Maybe a rock. Pull down a little reflection. Put a little highlight on it. Pull down the back side. And cut off a little roll of water. Just cut off the bottom. Over here, put some log, like a little thing in the water. The water's just going right up to it, and we need this to be nice and dark. Right there. Oop, I went crooked. Straight down. There we go. Now I'll just get rid of whatever that paint was. I'll go all the way across, bring it in. Very good. Now we need some rocks. Maybe we'll do more of this path here. I'm just going to get all these darks. do some light color, liquid white. We'll go into some of our light green we have here. A little bit of green, a little bit of yellow. Now, I'm excited. Let's do a nice big cherry blossom right here, kind of maybe just sitting right in here. Maybe there's 2 or 3 just kind of all bundled right up in here. So we'll put all of our dark, get the nice base. Maybe pick up a sable brush for this. Maybe now, script liner. We'll kind of thin it out. It's going to lighten the color just a touch as it's thinning, because it's now going to blend a little bit differently with the colors we have on there. Now we get all kinds of effects with these branches of translucency, pushing them further, and you've got branches behind and in front, and automatically they're just going to blend and push themselves back as we run out of paint on the brush, or they'll look further higher up in the sky, further away. Kind of focusing on some of the main areas first, main bigger branches, and then building on those with some smaller ones. We need to do this one right here. My paint is so thin, it's running away from me. That's what we want. Maybe this one is kind of like up and over. We don't want to cover that other one totally. Just build on it. There we go. do just a few right here, kind of low in the front. And I think let's do a little bit of a highlight just on a couple of these lower stumps, just right out here in front. Let's build some color on this tree. I'm going to clean out one of my fan brushes, the one that I had all my dark in. Then we'll get out a little bit of extra Alizarin crimson onto the palette. And we'll mix alizarin crimson and bright red, much more crimson than bright red. Pure pigments this time. A good bit on the brush. And we're going to start with some of these branches. We'll paint some of the further away areas. We don't want to cover up all of the fun branches that we already created, but we do want to cover up some of them. We just start slow and build our dark. A little bit more red. Now we've got a real nice foundation here to be able to come in and do some really fun highlights. But in order to do that, we need to just soften some of this out just in a few areas. Now, let's come back with our other fan brush. Make sure that one is cleaned out of our green. We're going to use liquid white and bright red, which I used all of. And I have a bit of gray here. I don't really want to combine those, so I'm just going to get rid of that. Right into the bright red, liquid white, Maybe some titanium white. Wiggle that through the paint so that we have all of that nice thin paint loaded up at the edge. Now, in our lightest areas, we'll start there first. We just build these layers. A little bit more liquid white. Liquid white. Just wiping out some of my dark that I'm picking up every now and then to try and keep this paint nice and fresh for us. Now, I'm just looking at the color on my brush, seeing where we need it. And I think we'll go up here and on some of these edges with a little bit of a lighter color. All right, we're going to work a little bit more on some of those highlights in a minute. First, let's do a few rocks right here around the base, kind of leading into our little path here. Got lots of nice and dark mixture here. Pull that down and into our path. Maybe it's like a sandy path and you could almost like wade into the water here. Get your feet a little wet. Say hi to the fishies. Maybe another rock there. We'll build that later. Let's do some highlights on the rocks, some titanium white, and just our rock color. These are some maybe like limestone rocks or something by the water. Some river stones. We need some grasses. We'll pick up our dirty fan brush. Just wipe that out a little bit. And we'll go into some of our light green mixture here. some of those in there. We've got our light pink mixture. Just grab a little bit more red. We can add, like there's some of these leaves and petals that have fallen here and there, and there and here. Now, a little bit of our thicker highlight. This is what we used for some of the bridge over here. Let's just pull out a little bit of dirt on this path. Bring it kind of right there into the water. Titanium white and dark sienna and bright red. We'll get our big 2-inch brush, pull down our water reflections. We'll do a little bit of a water line on there, right here on the edge. Maybe a little bit of grasses again. All right, lost all my colors, but we're going to do a few more rocks and boulders in here. Let's see, try and wrap this thing up here. Phthalo green, phthalo blue. All of our darks. Maybe, what if it's a really big boulder? Like one there and one like here. Ooh, really big. Right on that side of the path. Now we'll highlight it. We need some white. And some of our rock color. Let's do a little bit lighter. Grasses around it. Indian yellow and liquid white. Script liner, liquid white, and our greens. Let's get a little bit more liquid white. I'm going to use just a little bit of my highlight color just right out here and some of the edges on this path. Some tiny little hints, maybe a little bit of Indian yellow, a nice crisp color. Just bring it all together now, flattening out our layers. Now maybe we'll bring this in here. Let's do a tiny bit more rocks right over here. Just make this feel like it's got a nice bouldery edge. I forgot where I put my color there for a second. There, maybe. Got a little bit of this paint left. Yeah, we've got a nice good bit of dark on those rocks. We're coming in here with our little bit of our lighter color. I do call this the highlight color, but it's not really much of a highlight. It's just a little bit of white in our main color. We don't really have a ton of sun beaming on these stones necessarily right now. I mean, maybe in your painting you do, but we're just getting some reflected colors from the water, some shadows, and a little bit of light from our sun coming through here and there. But it's a lot of blues in this color. Bring that down, give this rock a little shape. And this corner is always the trickiest. I'll do something like that. Now, I'm going to pick up my 1-inch brush. We'll get some sap green, phthalo green, phthalo blue, a little bit of crimson. And maybe right about here, let's just work in kind of like some grass out here, maybe. Crimson, greens. Now, let's just grab these darks one more time. All the darks, whatever we have left. Now we're going to just build a little bit more of our path texture here. Just kind of like it's disappearing into the grass, this rich spring forest kind of feels, and gardeny forest. Who knows where we are, but it feels nice. I like it. Oh, and I definitely would want to be walking on this path. Maybe even barefoot, that would be nice. And let's just keep it going, it's nice. It's working good. Now we'll put a little bit of highlight on there. I really want to get some fun colors on this. Titanium white, bright red. Let's make sure we get a good bit of that. Oh, that's good stuff. Work in just a touch of our browns. Kind of marble that all together. And just right on top, drag the knife. All those colors, they'll just break right off. Maybe goes in to the grasses just a little, and maybe I think we need more. Now, we fill in some of those areas. Let's do some real nice, fun grasses. Right over here, we'll start with some dark ones. Just get the script liner, thin down the dark paint. We've got some green, phthalo green, sap green, and crimson. Put in a nice little base here. Just like a bouquet of flowers, find balance. Maybe they're blowing in the wind, maybe there's no wind. That's up to you. What about some right here? Just starting with the dark first. couple more. Maybe there's some right here. And there could be some in front too, but we don't know yet. Nice and dark down here. Okay. Now, let's do a little bit of building with this. I think maybe we'll have just a little bit more highlight here. Bringing this back. Something there. And we need some highlights on this grass out here. So we'll take our fan brush. We'll start with a little bit of our light mixture. And just build a nice little grassy field out here. As you move, you're going to have less and less paint. It's blending. Press up with the fan brush. I'll flip it over and do this last bit right here. Now, take the big 2-inch brush, and we're just going to soften some of these. Careful. Now, a little bit of Indian yellow and liquid white on the fan brush. We've got some sun beaming through here. Maybe a little bit more. And what if right here? Now we'll come in with our script liner again. Nice and small, light. We want it light green, so we go into the liquid white now. And we'll just layer a few of these. With the lighter color now. Let's get a little bit more green. Grab a little bit of blue and Indian yellow, liquid white. Maybe just a few kind of hidden around the edge here. blossom. Now, I really wanted to put some fish in this water. I thought it'd be kind of cool. So before we do that, we'll build a few little stones out there. So we'll need to mix up a few colors first. Let's do this color here. We've got kind of this light pink gray. It's got crimson, it has blue, it has bright red, liquid white. And we need a nice dark color. So we'll get all this crimson and we'll just head over here to whatever is left of all of our darks. Pile that up into something. Load up our brush with this dark. We're loading both sides of it. This is a medium thickness. Now on one side of this brush, we get some of our light color. We want to make sure that that light color is always facing where the sun is coming from. And you just make some rocks. Clean off the brush. Reload. Now, we'll take that same brush, pull straight down, and let's do a few more right out here. Now, let's pick up one of our other sable brushes. I've got a nice big one over here. That's kind of dirty. That'll work. And I want to get these reflections in order. So we'll just soften them out so we don't have too much paint moving around. Now, palette knife. We'll go into our watery mixture here. I want to add some titanium white to that. I'm going to cut off just a tiny roll of it on the edge of my knife here. Ooh, I should clean that off. Wipe off your knife first. And we want to try and find the one that's kind of set that's furthest away. We'll start with those. Oh, you know what we didn't do? We gotta flatten out our reflections, but that's okay. Still works. It's a little bit easier to do before you do your water lines. I'm gonna pull all of them back in one direction. Kind of like the water's flowing. It's flowing this way. A little tricky here. Make sure they're flat as possible. Now, we'll come back in with our palette knife now with that nice light color. You kind of just want to scrub it in a little bit at the base. Get that light color at the bottom of the rock. Okay, let's see if we can't put a few little fishies in the water. I'm gonna get my small sable brush and go into my Indian yellow and bright red. Mix those two. And I don't really know exactly what they're gonna look like underwater, but let's give it a try. I'm gonna reload, grab a little bit of white. Red. Maybe there's a few that are kind of like they're almost on top, deeper in the water. Or these would be, I guess, shallower in the water. Now, let's see about just a few, maybe some more details in the water, some ripples and stuff around them. We'll go into some of this medium dark blue. Maybe just rocking a little bit more dark in here, where we have these stones. It's flat and relatively calm water. Maybe it just kind of flows up that way, and it's a nice long pond for them to hang out in. Big zen area. Just using a small rocking motion with my brush to kind of put in some rocking water motions, some little reflective areas. Just looks like the ripples on the water. A little bit of our lighter blue here and there. Dark blue. Just a little bit of our lighter mixture. We can kind of bring some of these together. And maybe we'll just kind of work a little bit of this light just back a little. Bit of that. Now, last little thing, I think we need some cherry blossom petals that have fallen into the water and are just sitting maybe right on top there. Maybe some more. Now with some liquid white, we'll get just a touch of our blue. We want it very bright. And we are going to reflect a bunch of light now. Let's get some titanium white. And now let's find our little kind of sheen on the water here. Now, wipe off the palette knife and we just come right up into the edges of this and we kind of pull some of these out nice and flat. Make sure we're always going nice and flat. Maybe just a couple more little pink ones here and there. Okay, last touches now. I've got my script liner, a little bit of light green on here, really, really bright. Just some extra little grasses right on top here. It's not quite sticking, so I'll thin it down a little bit there. There we go. Flatten some of these. Straight. And right on top of a couple of these rocks, I'm going to get a little bit more highlight. Just going to clean off my script liner and go right into my red mixture I already have a good bit of. And I think I'll sign right here today. Don't want to mess up all my cool grasses over there. Boom. And that's a wrap. Episode number 95 in the books of Tutorial Tuesday. We are here every single Tuesday at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Want to paint with me personally? I offer private classes here in Boise and online. You just need to go to the link in the description below or send an email at KayleeRakowski.com. Smile and be happy, friends!